G'day, welcome to another video. In this video I'll be building this, the Tamiya Boomerang re-release, which has been re-released about 4 times now, since about 2008 onwards. Anyway, this is one I had had an original, you might know the story. Yeah, it was pretty much my first, that I remember, my first kit that I ever built. Had a few like grasshoppers, frog, this and that, all second hand. But when I started my first job, I went and bought one of these, built it up, grouse. Anyway, don't want to dribble on too long, got to get into it. It's a very lengthy video for what it is. I'm only going to build the chassis in this video, but I want it to be kind of thorough. I do skip over building the shocks though, that's probably a big thing, but whatever. But yeah, I wanted it to be pretty thorough, and it might be boring in a lot of places, like 90% of the video. Anyway, we'll get into it, see what you think, and yeah, go from there. Alrighty, so I've got all the parts laid out, ready to go, as you do. Very nice. Brings back a lot of memories, this one. Anyway, for the motor, I decided on a Tamiya lightly tuned motor, the 28 turn, and it's blue, so it'll look good. And we've got a Power HD 3001 HB, basically a standard servo. Anyway, that'll be fine and dandy. And a Futaba R202GF receiver, because I like my Futaba gear. And I reckon we can just pair that up to the Futaba T2HR right there. Just like the olden days, using sticks. Beautiful. And naturally I'll be running ball bearings in this. And of course we need a manual, because I don't remember how it goes together. And it's all great having that lightly tuned motor right there, and the servo and receiver. But going to get no power to the motor without an ESC. So we'll use the Hobbywing 1060 brushed ESC, 60 amp. Beautiful. Now those of you with a keen eye will see that I've already run ahead and put the tyres onto the wheels. Yeah, just couldn't help it. Okay, so I'll start off by putting the bevel gears into the diff gears there. Pretty simples. I just do them both at the same time. And then we need an 850 bearing to go in the spur gear. So you put an 850 in one side and one of the 1150s in the other. Now once they're done, we can go and start cutting some little bits off the trees. And we've got these E2 parts, basically the shaft for the drive gear or spur gear, whatever you like to call it. And of course cut the gear cases off. And as you can see what I'm doing here, I just use using some Tamiya side cutters and trim up any sharp bits with a knife. Now it's time to get onto the output shaft for the prop shaft. And we're kind of lucky these days, we get the actual thrust bearing that goes in there. Back in the old days we just had a washer and a plastic bearing or something. So get the right gear for it, stick the thrust bearing in the back. Then we need another 850 for the front of that gear. Doesn't actually sit in it, it sits kind of in front of it in the gear case. So you put those two in there, or 3 including the thrust bearing, and then slip the shaft in from the back. Now if you've got a keen eye here, you might have noticed I didn't push the little cup onto the output shaft properly. It's meant to clip, but I just didn't give it enough juice. So anyway, put the bearings in the gear case for the outdrives, and there it goes, just fell off there. I'll put that on later. And we've got the big E-clips. Back in the old days we had little wire C-clips, which were a real pain. They seem to work pretty good, but just a real pain to get off and on. So that's on. Now for the next one, same thing. Bearing on the inside, outdrive on the outside, and an E-clip. There we go, and that's how it should look. The cup should be flush with the end of the shaft. Now we can add some grease to the gears and stuff. And I use this little brush on the grease. It's just easier than getting your fingers covered in grease, but sometimes you just have to get in there and paddle. So now we can start fitting the gears in. Got the spur gear in there, and the bevel gears for the diff. Again, bit of grease on each side. Then we can go and fit the diff in there. Again, more grease. Now I'm basically just using petroleum jelly here. I've used that for 30 plus years with no problem. Some people don't like it, that's all good. You can use lithium grease in this case, but I've never had a problem with the petroleum jelly, especially in lower powered, stock type Tamiyas like this. And there we go, got all the grease in there. Now we can put the pin in. Don't forget that pin, that goes, it'll hold the diff in the centre. So it goes between both of the outdrives, and as you can see here, it sticks out a little bit. So just grab whatever can fit in the outdrive, poke it in. I just grabbed a random shaft and stuck it in just to slip it in. Make sure your gearbox is all, buttoned up nicely, so to speak. And then just separate it a little bit. Then you can put in the blue C6 part, basically the shock tower mount, and a little B4 spacer. Now that little spacer kind of has a recess on each side and kind of clips in. So just massage it around a bit till it clips in nicely. And there we go, all clipped in. As you can see, the spacer's in there, no gaps around it or anything. That's what you want, looking good. Then we can put in our 3x12 screw, just to hold it all together. Then we use a 3x27 screw and a nut at the front of the gearbox. And then a 3x20 and a nut at the back. Tighten them up. Check that it's all turning over nicely. Now we're almost ready for the motor. Now for the world's quickest unboxing ever. We got the Tamiya lightly tuned motor. I've pretty much only bought this because of the blue end bell. Matches the blue on the plastics. So yeah, I wasn't really after any power, but it should go a little bit better than the standard 540. Now we can go and fit the motor. And looking at the pinion gears, it comes with a 13 tooth and also a 15 tooth. I'm going to go for the 13 tooth because I only really plan on using it in a small area, namely the backyard. So I like to start by setting up the grub screw inside the pinion so you don't have to wrestle with it later. And use this little spacer to get the spacing right on the pinion. Goes on top of the motor. So grab our dust cover first. That just prevents the dust coming through the motor and into the gearbox. And probably stop grease going back into the motor too. So slip him on, put a little spacer on there. And grab the pinion gear, stick it on. I can't see properly, so I'm looking for the flat on the shaft. Then we just tighten him up carefully and nip it up at the end. You don't want to over tighten it and start stripping anything. We're ready to go, we can put the motor in. Next up, you're going to need this little black washer, little D4 part, because it holds these little plates in. These plates are responsible for setting the mesh on your pinion gear. So with the 13 tooth, my plates are all at the bottom, as you can tell by the instructions here. You can use other gear ratios too, you can go up to like a 17 tooth pinion. Now we can slip the little BA14 brass tube in. So that goes in the first screw hole. And put a screw in there. Now we can line up the first hole in the motor for the screw. And it gets a bit tricky with the dust shield also moving around and stuff, but you just massage it around until you find the hole. Screw it up. And you want to just leave it loose enough so you can still swivel the motor back and forth a little bit so you can get the other screw in. Now we can put our little plates in, and for me this is easy because I just got to hold all four together and put them in at once. Other than that, you can put whatever combination you need, just put them either side of the screw and hold it as you put them all in at once. So I just slip them in like that, set them in there, grab your screw and put the washer on. And then for me, the screw just goes in over the top of the plates. Too easy. Now this is probably the hardest part. Just put light pressure on it, keep screwing, and wiggle the motor and the dust cover back and forth until you find the hole. And there we go. Tighten him up. Don't over tighten it, of course. And we're done. That's the gearbox for the rear end, all done. Motor's in, looking good. And as you can see, the blue on the motor end bell there matches that shock tower support quite nicely. Now moving on a little bit quicker with the video. Front gearbox goes together much the same. All pretty simple. So I got the bearings in there, got the grease in there, it's all ready to go. All I need is one of these here and the pin, and then we can put it together. Don't forget to put this in the front to hold the bumper. And just be careful of the orientation of that thing. The little screw hole has to go so it's straight up and down, so the bumper screw can come in from the bottom. And there's our pin sticking out again, just push him in. The dog bones will hold that in later, of course, same with the back ones. And that's our front gearbox all done. Alrighty, so moving on, there's our rear gearbox, got the suspension arms on it and the got the dog bones and stuff in there. All quite simple, just follow the instructions and you'll be right. Now on the front, be sure to use these uprights, not the one on the, what tree is it? Not the one on the C tree. Going by them, you know, basically it's bigwig parts. Now I can't really see what the difference is. I've looked at them over and over. Internal measurements and that seem pretty much the same. The length of them seems the same. And the only thing I did notice, which you might not even be able to see, on the Boomerang one, it has tiny little grooves where the balls go up on the inside, like that, either end. There's a tiny little groove in there, top and bottom, but the bigwig ones don't have that, as you can see. Now I don't think that's got anything to do with you know, the front wobble that people get. That's purely dog bone length and things like that. So yeah, I'm not sure, you know, if it's really a bad thing to use them or not. Anyway, to use these ones, I mean. Yeah, so anyway, just use them, you'll be right. Now one thing I've been meaning to do is regarding the front binding, the front dog bones binding. I'll have a look at the winger over here, which is basically pretty much all original Boomerang under there. It's just a different body. So I don't know if it does it or not. Maybe a tiny amount. So what I'll do is, it sits pretty high, as you can see. I think I'll just get it sitting where I want it, or where I want the Boomerang to sit, which is pretty much level, and just measure the shocks and make the shocks that length. Put a bit of fuel tube or something on the shaft on the inside, maybe a couple of O-rings if I got spares. So I really want it to sit about there with the kind of with the wishbone sitting level, and then that'll pretty much cure any issues we got with the binding. If I can make it turn. Anyway, we'll have a look at that, and yeah, I think it looks much better sitting down there anyway. And there's our front end put together, got the arms and stuff on there, looking good. Now you just want to pay attention here to these little ball connectors. You need the long ones to go into the uprights, and the shorter ones go in the top arm for the stabilizer. Now working on the chassis, got the side guards on and stuff, body mounts, and onto the steering mechanism. So it's kind of a rack and pinion type setup. This little slide goes in here, and the servo horn will contact with that, slides back and forward and moves the tie rods. It's a novel idea, but you get stones and stuff caught. It's not real good. And that's it. So before I set up the electrics, I need to take this Tamiya plug off, put a Dean's plug on so it matches my batteries. And all I got to do there, cut the plug off, bare the ends of the wire, then tin the ends of the wire with a solder and soldering iron. And I've got this little jig here, so I just have the Dean's connector fitted up in there. And I can tin the terminals on that. And we get a bit of shrink tube, put it over the wire so we don't forget it. Now we can solder the wires to the little connectors on the Dean's plug. Then it's just a matter of slipping the shrink tubing up and heating it up with a little torch, or you can heat it up with a soldering iron, shrink it, whatever. And there we go, should look something like that. Now I've got all the electrics plugged in there, except the motor. So I'll check the servos in the centre, and while I'm here I'll adjust the, or change the jumpers on the ESC. Now I plan to use forward, brake and reverse, so I'll leave the top one where it is. Bottom one's LiPo or nickel metal hydride. I'll be using LiPo, so I'll just move that jumper across, if I can grab it. Yeah, there we go. Alrighty, so we got everything plugged in. Got the battery in there. And the trims are set on 0. Very good. So I've got the servo saver just sitting on there for now. So we'll make sure it's all in the centre. Turn him on. So as you can see, it's not in the centre. There we go, that's pretty close. Might as well put our screw in while we're here. And that's done. Still needs a bit of a trim to the side a bit. That's alright. Now a good chance to test out the motor, see if that works. And it does. So we got forward, brake and reverse. And our shaft's starting to pop out there. There we go. Now we can go and fit the servo up. So just screw on the servo mounts like this. And make sure they're positioned the right way around. Then we can go and put the servo in the chassis and just make sure the little piece on the servo saver is inserted in the slide there. Put one screw in. Don't do it up all the way, just leave a little bit of slack on it. Then we can move the slider back and forward and make sure it all moves smoothly. Put the other screw in and tighten them up. And there we go, it's all in, moving smoothly. Now for assembling the tie rods and things like that, it gets pretty hard, you know, screwing them on by hand. You can't hold it and whatnot. grab yourself a set of these. Doesn't have to be this brand, but get some shock pliers. They're quite cheap, and basically you can put the shaft in there, clamp down on it without any scratching. Then you can just screw these on beautifully. Alternatively, you could use like your pointies or something, use the flat part of it, but they're very hard. Like these are aluminium, so they're soft. So these are quite hard. So maybe get a bit of foam, not foam, a bit of cloth or something, put it in there so when you grab it, it doesn't leave marks. And certainly don't grab it back here. But yeah, a bit of cloth in there might help. But yeah, these are pretty cheap. Just grab a set of them. I went way too far. So we need 29mm between each end ball end there. So we can just have a look in the manual. These are perfect size on here. Or you can grab a ruler and just measure it. 29. So we need 2 of them. Done. So I've got a chassis, got the front and rear gearboxes all made up. Now we just need shocks. So I'll set them up, get them all ready. And like I said, I'll get a bit of fuel tube or a few O-rings or whatever and make them shorter. I'll measure these shocks where I want them, and go from there. So the front, we'll check the front, sitting level-ish. Center to center, we've got about 65mm, maybe 66, 67 even. But yeah, sitting up like this, we've got 75-ish. So I'll make that quite a bit shorter. That'll bring the front down. The rears, I don't know, maybe I'll just leave the rears alone, just do the front. Because the rear sort of floats around a little bit anyway, and it doesn't have any binding issues. So now we can just clip those tie rods on there. There we can put the rear gearbox on. 4 screws, 2 each side. Line them up and then just do them up. Now a little dust cover just sits in there like that. Kind of poke it in. Not a perfect fit, but near enough. Might actually stick it to the top of the servo with a bit of double-sided tape. Just stick him down. Now it doesn't say in the manual to stick it down, it just, you know, basically shows to put it in there. But that's it, we can peel it off if we need to. Now I'll get into the shocks. So I'm looking at the front shock here, and on closer inspection of the winger over there, I realised having the shock 65mm centre to centre at the ends, yeah, that won't leave much room for suspension travel. Like the shock won't have much left in it. So I've gone to about 75mm. So that means I've used a 9mm piece of fuel tube, nitro fuel tube on there. And we'll stick that in and, you know, see how much we're left with then. Because I need it to be around 14mm from the bottom of the shock body there to the top of the end. And keep in mind we've got to put the nut on there. Somewhere around 14mm anyway. Doesn't need to be too accurate. Tighten that up a bit more. I'll have to use the shock pliers, but yeah. We're at around 15mm there now. Right, we got 14. Beautiful. Alright, so I'll continue building the shocks and we go from there. Now I've got the shocks built, so here's the rear ones. Now when they extend right out, leaves a space, so I might use the thick spacer. Other than that, so it looks good on the shelf, it'll be low, so it'll sit down about 10mm anyway. But for running, probably put a spacer on it. But the front one, center to center, we've got about 77mm now. So it should help prevent any binding. One thing I forgot to mention, the reason why it is binding, the front and rear dog bones on them are the same length, whereas looking at I looked at an old Boomerang manual, and all the dog bones appeared the same. But looking at this one, they're definitely different, because at least they're different colours. As you can tell in the rear, they're silvers, and they're black in the front, if you can see them. Maybe through there. So they are different. So why Tamiya did that, I really don't know. So yeah, this I hope will help. If not, a lot of people say re-release Hotshot front dog bones will help or fix the problem. Someone else said, I think, universal joints out of like aftermarket ones. Yeah, racing or something like that, out of the DT02, I think, and DT03. Anyway, do your research if you want to, if you have that problem with the front binding. I haven't run this yet, so of course I don't know whether it will or it won't. Now, being that it's got the 9mm fuel tube in there to bring the piston up higher, naturally it's quite stiff. Probably should have used, even though I'm using the Tamiya soft oil, probably should have used maybe one of the bigger pistons, bigger holes in it. It definitely needs a lighter spring. Even though it's working for both sides of the car, I think it's still far too hard. Anyway, moving on. Now, after fitting the front shock, we can see it's pretty much level there. That's exactly what I wanted. How it'll handle, who knows? Now I had what I call a senior moment. Way back in step 19, I forgot to put the step 9, sorry. I forgot to put the shock tower on the rear end. So I've had to undo the arms and the top arms each side and screw it on. And there we go, we have a shock tower. And there's our rear shocks fitted up. Both seem to work pretty good. And now we can fit up the front gearbox. So we grab a drive shaft for the prop shaft. They give you 2. That's very nice. A little bit of grease on each end. Slide him in there. And the front, you kind of it's much better if that's sitting on the right angle. 1 second. There we go. Go in and down like that. Couple of screws. We go for the very back hole here. Now we can flip it over and connect the tie rods. Alright, now we can flip it over and actually we don't have to flip it over. We can just put the bumper on. There's 2 screws one at each side, and then one under the front. Alrighty, so we've got one under here. I'll put a tyre under there so it's not flopping around too much. Now this screw in here, we need a little bit of thread lock on it, on this little tacker here. Now I don't think Tamiya supplied it with the Boomerang. I've got plenty of it anyway. I didn't find any in the kit, but maybe it was just forgotten. I really don't know. Probably don't need heaps. That's way too much anyway. But I'll just stick it in and call it done. There we go. Now we've got the stabilizer to put on. Put the radio in, put some wheels on it, and the chassis is pretty much done then. Now just looking at where I'll mount the ESC, I think I'll put it in the bottom here, and then the battery cable can just go out there, basically where it should be. Motor wires will be pretty neat over this side. I'll probably put the receiver, maybe I'll even put it against the back there, I'm not sure, with the antennas over here. But it doesn't matter, I can just leave the little antenna wire, you know, if that's in there somewhere like that. The antenna wire can just run up here, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, because the hobby wing has these dicky little switches on them, you know, it's going to look a bit rude. Well, it's not even going to reach to here where it's supposed to go. So you can get these cheap ones off eBay or wherever, AliExpress, whatever. Just a cheap on-off switch. So I'm going to have to cut one wire off and cut a plug off, join them, take that other wire off, so it'll be something like that. Alrighty, so what I need to do here is take this one off. Well, I'll take them both off actually. And we need to keep a bit of that wire. Take that off. Need a couple of bits of shrink tube. And we'll solder that one right now. Now while that one's cooling off, we can get a bit of shrink tube for the other one. Solder that one too. And just pull the shrink tube over there like that. And the other one. And I'll just wave the soldering iron under it to melt it. Or shrink it, I should say. There we go, so it's extended. Tin those a little bit. Then we can just add them to the switch. We can put our switch back together. And there we go, got a new switch. And there you go, with the ESC in that position over there. Get those wires out of the way. Switch will go in about there. And be a normal usable switch like the olden days. Where you don't have to reach into the car to get it, you just hit it from the side. Now as you can see here, actually a little bit previously I already put the stabilizer on the front. That's pretty simple. Yeah, so now the electrics are all in. pretty happy with it. Turned out reasonably tidy. I could have tidied this up a little bit more, but yeah, it's alright. So yeah, you got our motor wires running up there beside the switch. One thing I did with the antenna, got the wire running up there, and you know, you need this little bit at the top. That's the little bit that actually receives any signal. I don't know if I'll put a bit of tape around that or not, but I got a bit of heat shrink tube and just put had to do it in 2 pieces because I didn't have long bit, but I just put a bit of shrink tube over it and heated it up. It's not 100% firm, and maybe it might have been needed just to use tape. I don't know, whatever. Now, of course, if you don't like the rollover antenna, I kind of like them because they prevent you busting up the wing and body and that so much, you know. When they roll over, they sort of land on that instead of putting all the weight on the body, both directions. So kind of, it saved a lot of my bodies. You know, you got these on the, they never came on the Boomerang as far as I know. We only had the plastic tube in the old days. But they came on the Frog. They were pretty handy, had the 2 of them. And the Super Shot as well. And yeah, in my experience, they save the body quite a bit. Anyway, if you don't like that, you can use a standard antenna tube. That'll go in there, and you probably cut it off about here. So they give you a little fitting for that, so the tube just slips inside it there. And it goes in there, and antenna goes up the center there, and off you go. One thing I kind of forgot to mention was, yeah, you got the prop shaft coming down here with the wires going past it, you know. Now to keep the wires away, especially the antenna wire there, something very basic, I just put it across the back there and over the top. So all I just used there was a piece of basic black insulation tape just to hold it away from the prop shaft there. So that's the chassis all finished. And yeah, all that's left now to do is do the body, paint the driver, fit that up, do the decals. But I'll leave that for another video. Won't be too far away, but yeah. And hopefully it'll be a bit quicker than this video. I just kind of wanted to be reasonably thorough with this one. Yeah, so it's all ready to go. The front, yeah, it's pretty hard. The suspension on the front. Could definitely do with lighter oil as well. But hey, when it's in the air, there's no binding. Magnificent. Anyway, like I said, the rear suspension does droop a little bit. I still didn't cut them off, but you know, just use the thicker spacer there. It'll sit a little bit, probably a little bit lower with the battery in, of course. But yeah, got a couple of spacers there we can use on the back. But yeah, I actually like it sitting low. I reckon it looks pretty cool. And where I plan to drive it, mainly in the backyard, maybe at the BMX track, doesn't need to be too high anyway. It's reasonably flat. Yeah, so that should be good. We'll get it all done, get it out for a rip. I think that lightly tuned motor matches pretty well. The blue could have been a bit darker, but it's near enough for me. And being 28 turn, a little bit better than standard. I'm not expecting too much from it, but I'll run it on a 2S LiPo, so it'll go alright. So yeah, in the next video, I'll do the tyre lettering as well. So tyre lettering all around, paint the driver, trim the body, paint the body, put the decals on, and it'll all be complete then and ready to go. So if you hung around this long, thanks for watching. I hope you got something from the video, and catch you next time.